The autumn rain came down hard that Tuesday evening, drumming against the pavement like 1,000 tiny fingers. Sarah Mitchell huddled deeper into her worn jacket, pulling her threadbare blanket tighter around her shoulders. At 62 years old, she never imagined her life would come to this, sleeping in doorways, counting pennies for a cup of coffee. The storefront alcove where she'd taken shelter offered little protection from the wind that whipped the rain sideways. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering warmer times. Her little house with the yellow kitchen, the grandchildren visiting on Sundays. All of it gone now, swept away by medical bills and misfortune. That's when she heard it. A soft whimpering sound, barely audible over the storm. Sarah opened her eyes and squinted into the darkness. There, trembling beneath a parked car across the street, was a golden retriever. The dog was soaked through, shivering violently, its leash tangled around the tire. "Oh, you poor thing," Sarah whispered. She should stay put. She should conserve her energy. But something in that dog's frightened eyes called to her in a way she couldn't ignore. Her late husband Tom used to say she had too soft a heart. Maybe he was right. Sarah pushed herself up, her knees protesting after hours of sitting on cold concrete. She shuffled across the empty street, the rain soaking through her thin jacket within seconds. "It's all right, sweetheart," she murmured, kneeling beside the car. Her fingers were stiff and clumsy as she worked to untangle the leash. "Let's get you somewhere dry." The dog watched her with soulful brown eyes, still trembling but no longer whimpering. When Sarah finally freed the leash, the retriever pressed against her leg, seeking warmth. "Come on then," Sarah said softly. She led the dog back to her alcove and wrapped her blanket around both of them. It wasn't much, but it was all she had to offer. The dog settled against her side, its warmth seeping into her chilled bones. Sarah noticed the expensive collar, the well-groomed coat beneath the mud and rain. This dog belonged to someone who must be worried sick. "Your family's probably looking for you," she told the retriever, stroking its damp fur. "We'll find them tomorrow, I promise." The dog rested its head on her lap, and for the first time in months, Sarah didn't feel quite so alone. She must have dozed off. Because the next thing she knew, pale morning light was filtering through the clouds. The rain had stopped. The golden retriever was still there, watching her with those gentle eyes. Sarah's stomach growled. She had $2.35 in her pocket, enough for a small coffee maybe. But the dog needed food too. "All right," she said, speaking to the dog as if it could understand. "Let's see what we can do." At the corner store, she bought a tin of cheap dog food with her last dollars. The cashier, a young man with kind eyes, didn't ask questions. Sarah fed the retriever in the alley behind the store, watching as the dog ate hungrily. "Good girl," Sarah said, checking the tag on the collar. The name read Bailey, with an address in the wealthy part of town at least 3 miles away. 3 miles. Sarah's feet already ached, but she'd made a promise. The walk took nearly 2 hours. Bailey trotted beside her patiently, occasionally looking up as if to say thank you. When they finally reached the neighborhood, Sarah felt her courage faltering. The houses here were enormous, set back behind iron gates and manicured lawns. She didn't belong in this world anymore. But a promise was a promise. She found the address and pressed the intercom button with a trembling finger. "Yes?" A woman's voice, crisp and professional. "I have Bailey," Sarah said simply. "Your dog. I found her in the rain last night." There was a long pause, then the gate buzzed open. Sarah's heart pounded as she walked up the long driveway. A woman in her 30s rushed out of the house, followed by an older man in an expensive suit. He was perhaps 70, with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that softened the moment he saw the dog. "Bailey!" The man dropped to his knees and the retriever bounded into his arms, tail wagging furiously. "Oh, thank God," he murmured into the dog's fur. "Thank God." He looked up at Sarah and she saw tears in his eyes. "Where did you find her?" "Downtown," Sarah said quietly. "She was caught under a car in the rain. I just made sure she stayed warm." The man stood slowly, studying Sarah's face. She knew what he saw, the worn clothes, the weathered skin, the exhaustion that came from too many nights without proper sleep. "You kept her safe all night," he said. "It wasn't a question," Sarah nodded. "I brought her back as soon as I could." "Please," the man said. "Come inside. Let me thank you properly." Sarah shook her head. That's not necessary. I'm just glad she's home. But the man was already guiding her toward the house, his hand gentle on her elbow. I insist. At the very least, let me make you breakfast. The warmth of the house enveloped Sarah like a hug. The man introduced himself as Robert Hayes, and the younger woman was his daughter Margaret. Over coffee and eggs, more food than Sarah had seen in days, Robert explained that Bailey had slipped out during the storm while the housekeeper was bringing in groceries. We searched all night, Margaret said, her voice breaking. Dad's had Bailey since Mom passed away 5 years ago. She's all he has left of her. Sarah understood. She understood loss. She understood holding on to the things that connected you to the people you'd loved. I'm sorry about your mother, Sarah said softly. Robert was watching her again with those keen eyes. You didn't have to bring her back, he said. A dog like Bailey, she's worth quite a bit. You could have sold her. Sarah felt her cheeks flush. I would never. She has a family who loves her. That's worth more than money. Something shifted in Robert's expression. Margaret, he said quietly, would you excuse us for a moment? After his daughter left, Robert leaned forward. Mrs. Mitchell, he began. How did you... Sarah started. Your library card, Robert said gently. It fell out of your pocket. Sarah Mitchell, former librarian at Washington Elementary. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. That was a long time ago. What happened? Robert asked, his voice kind but direct, and Sarah found herself telling him about Tom's cancer, the medical bills that ate through their savings, the house she'd lost, the family who drifted away, embarrassed by her circumstances. She hadn't meant to say so much, but something about Robert's steady presence made the words flow. When she finished, Robert was quiet for a long moment. I'm the CEO of Hayes Industries, he finally said. We manufacture medical equipment. It's a successful company now, but 30 years ago I was one bad decision away from bankruptcy. A stranger helped me then, gave me a loan when no bank would. I never forgot that kindness. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Sarah listened in growing disbelief as Robert arranged for a furnished apartment in a building his company owned, a job in Hayes Industries' library and archives department, and a meeting with a benefits coordinator. Wait, Sarah said, her voice shaking. I don't understand. I just brought your dog home. No, Robert said firmly. You gave up your last bit of warmth for a frightened animal. You spent your last money to feed her. You walked 3 miles when you barely had the strength. That kind of character is rare, Mrs. Mitchell. And I've learned that when you find people with true kindness in their hearts, you don't let them slip away. Sarah couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face. Besides, Robert added with a soft smile, Bailey likes you, and she's an excellent judge of character. As if on cue, Bailey patted over and rested her head on Sarah's knee. 1 month later, Sarah stood in her small but cozy apartment, looking out at the city below. She had a job she loved, organizing the historical archives at Hayes Industries. Margaret had become a friend, often stopping by for tea, and twice a week Robert brought Bailey to visit. Sarah had learned something in those dark months on the streets. That rock bottom could either break you or reveal who you truly were. She'd chosen kindness when she had nothing else to give, and somehow, impossibly, that kindness had circled back to save her. On her kitchen table sat a framed photo. Robert, Margaret, Bailey, and Sarah taken at the company picnic. A new family built not on blood but on compassion. Sometimes the smallest acts of grace create the biggest changes. Sometimes saving someone else is how we save ourselves. And sometimes on a rainy night when all seems lost, an angel appears on 4 legs with golden fur and says without words, "Hold on. Your story isn't over yet."